open the door. Just trying to lure you in there. Wow. So, thank you all so very much for the warm welcome. I would like to start off by thanking you, Mr. Thompson, for the kind words and introduction. Mayor Blake, Dr. Kataya, Dr. Fedigan, members of the Board of Ed, distinguished guests, I want to thank you and start off by saying how honored I am to be here today and grateful to have received this recognition. What has made this especially meaningful to me is knowing that I am being recognized among so many other exceptional teachers and leaders, those who I work with and have learned from, and still aspire to be like day in and day out. Having grown up in Milford and being a product of the Milford school system, it is especially gratifying to have the opportunity to represent the city where I was born and raised. I would like to thank my own elementary, middle, and high school teachers here in Milford, many who are in attendance, the entire science departments at Jonathan Law and Foreign High School, and all of the colleagues who I work most closely with for inspiring me and pushing me to grow as a teacher. I would like to thank my parents and my entire family for shaping the person who I am today, and of course my wife, Margaret Morzini, for being my best friend. I would not be standing here if it were not for any one of the people I just mentioned. So when I got nominated as District Teacher of the Year back in April, I began to reflect upon my career up to this point. I went to my file where I keep a number of keepsakes that I've received from students over the years. Looking at these special notes, cards, letters, and other interesting artifacts always makes me smile. As I was looking through, I stumbled upon something. Suddenly, as if my memory had somehow failed me, or maybe my memory had intentionally forgotten to protect me from this one thing, there it was, staring me right in the face. At the back of the folder, I found something that I received from a student around 8 years ago. I'll be honest, I have not shared this with anyone except for my wife up to this point. When I mentioned to Margaret my great idea that I might share this at the convocation with hundreds of people, she said, "I really don't know if you should do that." "Are you sure?" And I just thought it was time. So I'll tell you the quick story. 8 years ago in biology class, before a dissection, we were reviewing body planes, and I had drawn a diagram of a fish on the board, a marlin, which has been one of my favorite fish for a long time. We were reviewing terms like dorsal, ventral, lateral, etc., when I heard Ian giggling in the back of the room as he stared at his paper. Ian was very quiet and also very interesting. He didn't smile much, but he was very talented and incredibly artistic. In this moment, I saw him smiling as he showed his friend his paper. His friend chuckled, and I knew something a little bit secretive was going on. At the end of class, after everyone left, Ian was the last to leave the room, and he came up to me and said, "Here, Mr. Morzini, I want you to keep this. It's fish zini." Sunglass line. That was the most unique thing I've ever received from a student. So as some of you may know, I'm kind of a fish head, or a fish body, I guess. I've been obsessed with fishing since I was a young child, and am now a fishing guide for striped bass in the summer months. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about teaching, about instruction through the lens of fishing and some of my experiences on the water. What I've learned is that the best fishermen can get the fish to bite even when they're not hungry. Think about it. If all we ever fished for were the hungry fish, fishing would be the easiest sport in the world. With today's advanced electronics, finding the fish is easy, and all you would have to do is locate fish, drop your line down, and catch. The fact is, many times the fish you're after aren't hungry at all. Fish don't eat on your fishing schedule. Imagine being a professional tournament angler or a fishing guide where you have limited time, let's say 5 hours, to catch as many fish as possible or you risk your livelihood. Now that's fishing with real pressure. You see schools of fish beneath your boat on your sonar. You know they're there, but they won't bite. What do you do? The answer may sound ridiculous, but it's this. You get the fish to act on their instinct. You present your lure in such a way that the fish intrinsically reacts and bites out of pure instinct and motivation. Flashy colors, certain movements, a sound, a twitch, then a pause, or a distinct change in your presentation can all work depending on the given situation and set of conditions. There's a name for this in fishing, and it's called eliciting a reaction strike. So, it works. Isn't this exact thing what makes teaching so incredibly difficult? The fact that we teach all students, and so many of our students, even some of our very best, are not motivated to learn what we need them to do, or do not come to us inherently hungry. My philosophy on teaching has always revolved around this. I've always believed that the main secret to teaching lies within finding a way to get students curious, get them questioning, and get them excited so that they are intrinsically motivated to learn and to explore. Engagement, you may call it, before you start those deeper activities. This was what I learned in college about how science should be taught, and I think it may apply to many areas of teaching. This philosophy is all great, but I want to share with you what happened to me. At a certain point in my career, to keep it brief, I got bombarded. Methods changed, new ideas came to light, different hypotheses on teaching. Educational experts voiced their opinions, explaining what was right now and what may have been wrong about what we were doing. We all want what's best for our students, and at times I felt unsure. I tried to do so many of these things and follow each of them so deeply that my original core philosophy, what I had always believed in, got buried in the mix. There were times that I felt like I was just casting a bare hook into a school of fish beneath my boat with no flashy lure. Just a sharp gleaming hook trying to force the fish to bite it. There you go, that's a hook. I especially noticed this one day during the student-centered science talk I was trying to facilitate in my classroom. I had started the discussion by handing my students multiple rubrics and listing off to them what they needed to do and what they were not allowed to do during the discussion and how they would be assessed. Man, talk about throwing a bare hook into a school of fish. After the discussion wasn't going as I had intended, a light bulb went off. I thought to myself, how are they not interested in this topic? This is so cool. Do they even see it? Luckily for me, in that moment, on that day, I woke up. I broke my protocol and intervened, reeled off a few interesting questions, shared a story or two, some experiences and relatable examples. The next thing I knew, that sparked a question. It really was just one question from an inquisitive student. But this question led to more questions, and the discussion I had hoped for actually started up. It didn't happen the way I'd planned, or for as long as I would have liked, but it happened the right way. And really, it was so simple. How did I lose this? How did I get away from it? I had known this all along, from back when I was fresh out of college, but somehow I got away from it. There's a saying in fishing, and my good friend, professional bass angler and Bassmaster Classic world champion Mike Iaconelli uses it a lot. It's called fishing the moment, and I'll explain it like this. When you develop a fishing plan, you try to align all of the variables perfectly to plan your attack. You base your plans on your history, what you have learned and researched, what patterns you know the fish to be following, and what you predict will work to catch the fish you are pursuing. Here's the thing. When you actually go out to execute your plan, things usually don't go as you had expected them to. Variables change, situations arise that you had never anticipated, and you are often left dumbfounded when you can't get a bite. Here's what is really incredible to me. You'd be amazed at how many times in these exact situations, anglers, including myself, continue to do the exact thing that is not working. We default to the thing we had planned to our own detriment when it is the one thing that is not actually working at the time. I have done it myself.